Dear Heavenly Father, we're here again for another amazing time with the bros. I pray that the wisdom that we drop would be insightful to lives, that they would hear something that could spark and move their life in a direction that could actually transform their life for the better like never before. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's get it.
Amen.
If I call you bro, that means I love you, bro. That means I'll go to war with you.
Fire, baby.
The reason why you need to know your identity is because when you know who you are, people don't get to define it for you. When I tell you guys who you have in your circle is important.
You're listening to the Bro Cement Podcast with Cameron Persad, Jeff T. Osborne, and Roy Rand.
Welcome to the Bros to Men podcast. We here again in the lab, fellas.
Man.
How y'all feeling? Y'all feeling good?
Yes, sir.
Come on.
Good, man. Can't complain. Got
Come on.
more caffeine going.
Yes, sir.
Lord work through me today.
Mandatory. Look, a new day, new time. We're here in the lab. Solomon, what's going on, my man? How you feeling
how
today?
You doing? I'm great. How are you guys?
Man,
Good. Ready? Let's go.
Come on.
Nice.
But
Okay.
listen, if y'all tuning in right now, we want to welcome you guys to the Bro Cement podcast, where we just share all the wisdom that we learned that helped us transition from being bros out there in the street to the men we are today. And we want to give you some type of content that's going to incite action. It's going to cause you to move into a level of your life, your relationships, your business like never before. And so today we got a new topic. And I'm excited about this topic. This is a topic that a lot of people talk about, but I feel like if we brought it here to the lab and we brought it here to discuss with the bros, I feel like there might be a little spin on it as we discuss about it. But I want to talk about time.
Ooh.
Time is a commodity that everybody has. Some squander it. Some maximize it. People are in their beds right now in the hospital wishing they had more of it.
Come on now.
People are wishing they had less time in certain areas. Whether they're incarcerated, whether people are free, they're wishing I had less time at the job. I mean, time is something that everybody talks about, so many different angles in time. But specifically here in the lab with the bros, I want to talk about time management. When we talk about time management, I'm talking about why is it time management important? How do we deal with time management? What is this thing called time management? And ultimately, I want the people who are watching this, fellas, to walk away with some tangible tools so they know how to manage their time effectively so they can crush it and maximize the time that they got left here on this earth.
Time.
So here's my question. What is something that you wish you knew about time when you were younger that you didn't find out until it bit you in your butt?
That it goes by quickly. That it goes by very quickly.
Super quick.
So, I've told this story many times about the health issues in the battle that I had, and when I was diagnosed at 28 years old, and when the doctor told me I was being diagnosed with what was the number 9 leading cause of death in the U.S., the first thought that came to my mind is, it's too soon. It's too soon.
Mm.
Like, what do you mean?
Mm.
I'm 28 years old, right? So I wanted to know the stats. I wanted to know how to beat it, what options I
The
had,
data.
everything, right? Because it's like, it's too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spoken to people who are 50, 60, 70 years old, and they say the same thing. If I could just get 1 more year, if I could just get 3 more years.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I wish I would have done that I didn't do.
Uh.
So I'll just say this, that for someone who's been sick with an uncertain future, that when you're in that position, there's nothing more that you want than time.
Yeah.
You just want time.
Mm.
Everything else you thought you wanted in life, whether it was the finances, whether it was the car, whether it was the house, did you have the model-looking girl? None of that matters in that moment. The only thing you want in that moment
Boy.
is time. And I'm sure we'll get deeper in that. We'll talk about it, Dips.
I would say looking back, the number one thing that I realize is how important it is and how ambiguous it is. Time is literally the entity that determines the outcome of your life, your family's life, and the dynamics of your entire future and bloodline. It's that deep.
Wow.
How you manage your time is what's going to be family good to family not so good. And one of the things that one of the quotes that I heard, and I hope I get this correct when I realized this, was, what is the impact on the people you love when you waste your time?
Oh,
And
What
that
is the
what
impact
is the impact
on
and
the
who are
people
you
you
letting
love?
down when you waste your time?
When you waste
who
your
are you
time.
letting down?
Who are
when
you
waste your
letting down when you
That's
waste your
heavy,
time?
bro.
And that hit me hard because you know, I could live a chill life by myself, not too much. But when people I love are hurting or people I love don't go to a certain place that I want them to go, it really bothers me. And so when he asked me that, that's what flipped everything for me. And that's when I realized, like, yo, you can't squander time. And we have a lot of tools and AI and systems now where you can really maximize time, and
Yeah.
that's amazing. So you can still be with the loved ones
Mhm.
while you're chasing goals, but
Mhm.
how important it is. And it's so fleeting. It doesn't feel important, but it
Mm.
really is the number one commodity.
Mm.
Yeah, Joe, talk about it. We kind of had like a brief conversation on the way up here today, sitting in that 405 traffic,
Yeah.
right? About people who were once in our circle, people who were once peers, and how they chose to use their time in some of their current realities, right? Some of their current circumstances.
Mhm.
And we also touched a little bit on how sometimes the way you spend your time, even in your youth, has long lasting effects, right?
Boy.
So, I mean, I think you've shared your story. People know you had how you had to spend some of your time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious to hear for someone who's been incarcerated, which is the freedom taken away and your time spent in an area you clearly don't want to be in. I mean, talk about like the value of time to you now for someone who's had it taken away from them.
Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, life is but a vapor. Like he talks about how life is a vapor. Like when you talk about a vapor, man, I wish I had something here. Solomon had something here. Pastor Diego, our pastor, man, he did a
Mhm.
message. He said, life is but a vapor. And I think he touched on it, or no, I'm sorry, Adam, our boy Adam talked on it, man. When he was preaching, he said, life is but a vapor. Went like this is a vapor. He sprayed a water bottle and showed how it came out and it was gone. He sprayed it again, it was there and it was gone. And when we look at time and we understand time, we think that we have more than we actually have. We think that time is disposable, right? We feel like time is unlimited in those moments, so we spend it like we have an abundance of it, not recognizing that we're going to have to give account for every second and every minute that we spend. And so when you ask me about time,
Yeah.
I was in a place where time was going, but time stood still. I was in a prison cell in solitary confinement. I was on a level 4 prison yard. I was in a holding tank for hours on end where time was going on the outside, but I'm in a cell and time is standing still. And in those moments that I was there, I went back wishing that I could go back in time and make different decisions at a certain time that would change the outcome that I have right now. And one of the things that I wish is I wish I would have been more cognitively present in that moment.
Ooh.
What I mean by cognitively present is I feel like sometimes we go into autopilot in life and we're not cognitively present in that moment. I'm not thinking about how my actions right now are going to weigh on the time that I'm going to either lose or gain in the future. I didn't think about how driving around, robbing folks, being a getaway driver, playing a stick up kid, playing that street life. I did not think. And because I wasn't thinking and I wasn't cognitively present in that moment of the decision I was making, I didn't see how the time that I was wasting was going to cause me to be in a place that I was wasting time.
Yeah.
And so time for me is something that is so precious because I would rather have time freedom. People think people think they build wealth and they want wealth because I just want to buy stuff. But people who are truly wealthy understand that my money buys me autonomy.
Yeah. That's what wealth is. Wealth is time.
It's
Being rich is money, but wealth is your time back.
bruh. And so when we talk about that idea of time, and you talk about that present of time, I wish somebody would have told me and taught me how to be cognitively present in the moment and aware of how my words are going to affect my wife or my kids moving forward. You may say a statement right now, but you don't understand the word that you speak to your child or your wife or your husband becomes a future word because they take what you say and they take it into the future, both good or bad.
Yeah.
And so I wish somebody would have taught me the power of being cognitively present of how my actions really affect my time and how I spend my time.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things that it kind of just. I mean, we started off. We started. Right out the gate.
Come on, man.
Somebody and being present of our time, right? Being present of what that means. What would you say? What would you say has been a benefit of you recognizing the power of time?
I think it's like you mentioned, it's this commodity I think you don't get back.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's like so big about recognizing that.
Mm.
And I think I've shared this story before, but I was working for this tech company that was owned by this billionaire. And we were at this table. There's probably 12, 13 of us around this round table, right? And this is a life lesson that made me realize how people who are successful in their endeavors, how much they value their time.
Mm.
And the meeting was over. Maybe we had 5 minutes to spare. And one lady said, "Sir, can I just table one more topic before we all break? And I would like you to question it or to provide an answer for it." And he looked at his watch and he said, "You have 37 seconds. Go." And he said, "Wait, before you start, if you can't propose this question in 37 seconds, you need to schedule a one-on-one with me." "No, sir, I'll be quick." So she starts talking. Blah, blah, blah. We're all sitting there listening. And I just see him look at his watch. He quietly got up, without saying a word, picked up his computer, pushed in the chair, and walked out the room. Didn't say a single word to her or anybody there.
Yeah.
She said, "Well, I guess I'll be scheduling a one-on-one with him."
Yeah.
And that's what made me realize how important these people value their time.
No,
I've never seen anyone do that.
what I learned about high performing people is we all have these two commodities in life, our energy and our time. And it's time management, but it's really energy management. And high performers, like my coach's coach, if you want to schedule a meeting with him, he'll send you a link, like, here's a meeting, but then you also have to fill out this thing where you got to propose what you're going to talk about in the meeting. You got to answer all these questions. And what he found is a lot of times people would figure out what they needed to learn just by filling that thing out. And so time is crazy because it's the only material you have to create the future you want. It's literally the only material you have to create the future you want.
Boy.
And until you look at it like that, you don't really understand time. And when you start realizing that, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to start looking like an asshole to some people.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
why would I take my time away from my kids, spend it with you? Why would I take my time if I'm not going to be reciprocated with money or something back? If you can't multiply time and compress it, then you're never going to be able to hit big goals and big dreams.
Ooh, that's big. Let's talk about that, because obviously now we've I think placed the value on time, right? We've talked about how much value time holds.
Nothing's more valuable.
Exactly. But one of the biggest challenges for people, myself included, and I'm sure we'll get into these regimens. People know me for being very structured, and it's
Yeah.
because I want to maximize that time on the day that I have. There's so much, amount of time I spend at work, and there's so much amount of time I spend in the gym. There's so much amount of time I spend with the family, but it's how to manage that time and to maximize that available time that I think I'm really interested in is going to bless somebody. And again, I mean, I know you have a crazy schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I'll call Jeff, and like if it's that one ring goes to voicemail, I'm like, oh, he's busy. And I'll get that message in the meeting, call you right back. You know, so for someone who's in and out of meetings, and I think we can all probably touch on this in some capacity, it's like how do you manage that time to fit in the wife, the 2 kids,
Yeah.
the clients, everything else that you do on this day to day?
The first thing that I learned, man, I learned so much freaking gold
And
today.
being present
man.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Present,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody today, and I learned this today, is that the tempo of your life shouldn't change the commitments in your life. The tempo of your life shouldn't change the commitments.
You're saying tempo.
Yeah, the tempo.
Okay.
Like the
Yeah, the speed.
tempo.
Yeah.
Like the speed, the tempo,
Yeah. Got you. Yeah.
the tempo of your life shouldn't change the commitment in your life. In other words, the first thing that I got to understand is even though time is going, if time is speeding up and my tempo's quicker, it doesn't mean that I get to get sloppier.
I love that.
If my tempo is getting quicker and I'm doing a lot of different things, today I woke up this morning, I got the kids up, I sat down, I did my prayer, did my meditation on God's word. I sat down and had coffee with Nadia. I took my dog out. I helped the kids get ready. I got ready, got in the shower, got ready, headed over to a leadership meeting. I was at the leadership meeting from 9 to about 3 o'clock, hopped in the car, drove back, took my dog to the vet, gave my wife a kiss, had lunch with her, and then we down here
Yeah.
in LA having our podcast. My tempo was quick, but my tempo I don't allow my tempo to change my commitments of what I have and how I'm moving. And so that's the first thing I would say. When it comes to time, you're gonna have certain season. The Bible says that there'll be a time in your life where you will walk and not grow weary, and you'll run and not grow faint. In other words, there are moments of our lives where we understand that we're walking, and when we're walking for long periods of time, we can't grow weary, but we're also gonna have moments where we're running and we gotta run.
Right.
And so the question that you asked me is how do I manage my time? I don't manage time, I manage days.
Ooh. Okay.
So one of my mentors taught me this, it changed my life. For me, and this just works for me, when it comes to understanding time, I don't manage time like as a time schedule, I manage days. So when I talk about days, Mondays are my what I call my marriage Mondays. Those are my marriage moment Mondays, or my Mondays where I'll spend time with Nadia on my marriage at the front end of the morning, and then we go grocery shopping on Mondays. Tuesdays are when I am actually taking in Tuesdays. So that means that I'm taking in all of the wisdom that I need to prepare me for my week. I'm actually tracking where I need to go on my Tuesdays. My Wednesdays are winning Wednesdays. That's when I choose to help other people win. That's when I'm coaching my heaviest, right? My Thursdays are my takeaway Thursdays, where I'm looking at everything in my life that I'm taking away for that Thursday of how I'm doing it. And then my Fridays are family Fridays, where I commit that. But when I say that I'm managing my days, it means that what are the days of the week that you're going to commit to doing a certain thing? If Mondays are the days that I'm reading and I'm building myself up, that's the only thing I'm doing on Mondays. I'm not taking meetings on Mondays. I'm not trying to scale and do it, because my Mondays are for me. It's my me Monday, so I'm gonna build myself up. If Tuesdays are your training Tuesdays, that's the day that you're scheduling all your training, or you're doing training on Tuesdays. I am dedicating Tuesdays to my trainings. Where are you at Wednesdays? That's you probably following up with everybody saying, yo, where are you at in your life?
Yeah.
All your phone calls you got to return on Wednesdays.
Right.
Thursdays are the days that you're just thundering Thursdays. That means that's the days you're forging, you're in your height of your day. You're taking all of your plans, you're going over to these places, you're visiting your clients, whatever that is. Whatever those days are of the week, when I talk about managing your days, for me, what has helped with my time management is understanding this is my Monday is dedicated to this, Tuesday's dedicated to this, Wednesday's dedicated to this, Thursday. And if it doesn't fall within that, I'm not touching it for that day.
You have a system.
That's it.
100%.
And a lot of people think money creates freedom, but systems create freedom. And when you were talking about your system, I was going to ask, how do you manage the work-life balance thing? But what I'm getting from what you're saying is work-life integration. You've
Yeah.
integrated it in a way to where it's a system that works for you. You know what you're focusing on. You know what you can lock in on. But how much time did it take you to learn that? Right?
Yeah.
That the time, it's almost like time compresses as you get better and learn what you need to do with those systems, right?
Mhm.
And like even with like, I talk about lead measures. The lead measures are the habits you're going to do, and the lag measures the results. A lot of the times we focus on the results. We step on the scale, we look at the scale, but the results isn't what creates the results. It's the lead measure that creates the results.
Hold on. When
So
you say lead measure, for
Mhm.
somebody who's watching right now, what does lead measure mean?
lead measure is the habit that guarantees you get a result.
Mm,
And if you don't know what your lead measures are, you can simply ask someone who's done what you want to do and they could give you the lead measure. So, for example, we know that the law of thermodynamics, if you eat less calories than you burn, you
Right.
will lose weight.
Yeah.
But if, and 3,500 calories is a pound, but let's say I burn 3,500 calories in one day and I step on the scale after the day is over, the pound is still there. There's a lag, and that's why they call the results the lag measure. There's always this lag in time, right? And so if you can figure out those habits and integrate them into your life like you do, then you can free up so much time to do more things for yourself and for your family.
So you talked about lead measures, and you talked about um, creating those habits that
Yeah.
produce that in your life. You have your coaching, bro. You are the most committed fitness person
Mhm.
that I know. And some people would say, "Oh, the only reason why, Roy, that you as fit as you are because you don't have kids, you're not married yet, you don't have any of those things, so it's easier for you to have the schedule that you have." What would you say to somebody who says, I don't have time in my schedule because I got all of these different things, but you're able to get those results, and that's why I can't get that result.
I would say you're correct, but also you got to prioritize.
Mm.
And I think the only thing you can give your family and children better than time with them is your own personal development. Because your kids aren't going to do what you tell them to do. They're going to do what they see you do.
Boy,
Right? You can say you need to
loading
be
right
healthy.
now.
You need to be
Yep.
working hard. You could say that all day, but if you're not doing it,
overweight,
then they're not going to do it. I remember when Kobe tore his Achilles, he was like, I'm ready to retire. And he looked over at Gigi and was like, nah, she's watching. She wants to see how I handle this situation.
Ooh,
I got to lock in and come
Oof.
back, even if it's just to show Gigi that you can overcome anything, then I can retire. And so, health, and also I want to be present, right? Like, I want to be healthy and have energy when I'm with people.
yeah.
Like, it annoys me when people walk slow and talk slow and move slow. Like, bruh, speed it. What's up? What's popping? What's like how we're like, yo, what's good? Like, we'll work in the room. And so you can compress time with tools and systems and integration.
Yeah.
But it just comes down to priorities, and go watch the episode we talk about your personal brand of you. Those priorities also should be built in with what your brand is. Because you don't have to work out an hour every day like I do. 20 minutes.
Right.
You good.
It builds that consistency.
It's
And
just
it
the
builds up.
consistency.
And I think we'll talk on that. Cam, you are at one of the highest, if not the highest level of security clearance for the work that you do. I mean, tech companies, other countries, the type of work you do is just like next level. And yet you're punctual. You show up when you say you go show up. How would you, at a high capacity level as an executive, how would you categorize time, and how do you manage time? Because you got employees underneath you. You have meetings in other countries. You have your own security consulting company where you consult big execs and tech people and celebrities. How do you manage your time all while having a fiance? I'm just throwing that out there in the future. That's a little prophecy. I got you, girl.
Hey, boy,
You already
prophesize
know.
it to your boy.
If she's watching this, we know the date.
She watching. Come on, sis.
We know
I
the
got
date.
you, girl.
That boy prophesizing. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But how would you what would you talk about when it comes to time? How do you manage time?
So I tell people that I take leadership serious. Like, I'm a leader, so I lead.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think in leadership, you show others who you lead or that you lead, what's important. And I think, what example do you set when you say we're meeting at 12 and you walk in at 12:05?
Yeah.
We're meeting at 1 and you walk in at 1:30 or 1:15 or 1:02, 1:01.
Mhm.
When I tell my team we're meeting at 12, I'm in there at 11:45, notes prepped, drew everything out on the whiteboard, bullet pointed the items we're going to talk about so we can maximize the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's just how I roll in a sense, right? I think that you show others what's important to you and how to act accordingly.
Mm.
So people know, for example, if you put a 10 a.m. on my calendar and you walk in my office at 10:05, they don't even try it. Don't even try it. Because they're going to send me a message, hey, Cam, I just noticed it's 10:03. I'll reschedule with you. They already know I'm not going to entertain them at 3 minutes late, 5 minutes late. So I tell you have to value my time. If you want me to value yours and you want me to not multitask while you're in my office, if you're in front of me, you're in front of me, you have my full attention.
Mm.
If the email's going off, hold on, let me check this real quick. I'm not reading the email. Hold on, let me respond to this text real quick. You have my full attention for the amount of time that we have blocked out. So if you want me to value your time and provide you value and to give you input, you need to do the same with mine. And that's just like the standard that I have.
So
You know, we're
I'm
not-
getting something from all of that.
Talk to me.
Life seems to be a linear arrangement of events, sequence of events. And I'm going to read this from my book. I can see it in my head. My coach, Jeff Osborne, always says, your downtime is your prep time.
Yeah, man, that's law.
So, two things I got from what you said. You're prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're prepared, you don't need to spend as much time on it
Boy.
because you're good to go. You know what the outcome is. You know what you got to do.
You are
You prepared to
talking.
go. Number 2, forced multiplier. You know
Mm.
what that means.
Mhm.
A forced multiplier is something that you add to something that makes it 2 times, 10 times better.
Okay.
So an example will be a flashlight on a weapon.
Okay.
Mhm.
Focus
Mhm.
is
Right.
a forced multiplier
Right.
of time.
Right.
Because if you can focus, what it took you an hour could take you 15 minutes. You ever been in a meeting where you're
Boy.
like, bro, we could have talked for
Boy.
5 minutes?
Bro, you are talking right.
We
Listen,
could have talked for
man,
5 minutes.
my biggest pet peeve, bro. Like I do this on purpose, right? Like if I want to get with you regarding a business plan,
Mhm.
something at work,
Mhm.
I'm always gonna give you ample notice.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. It's because I want you to show up prepared. Like don't put a meeting on my calendar or and you come in my office and we're just rambling. We're scrambling. You're
Yeah.
going off topic. You trying to bring up this, oh, I thought we were talking about this.
Yeah.
You know, like this
Mhm.
is dedicated time to talk about goals, objectives, project management, things that we're struggling with. Don't start getting sidetracked. That's why when you say like preparation,
Yeah.
I love it. And I also think that the way that you utilize someone else's time, the time that they're providing you, is a direct indicator of how much you respect that person.
Oh.
And we could talk about work. We could talk about dating. Like,
Boy.
if you know what I'm looking for in a relationship, or if I know what you're looking for in a relationship, and I take you out and I'm trying to, entertain you, whatever the case is, and then I waste your time, that is a direct indication of how much I respect you and your time.
Man.
And just like coaching, right? If you tell one of your clients you need to do A, B, and C by the next time we meet, and you come back and you say, give me your update, where you at? Man, I got busy, the wife wanted to hang out. They are wasting your time.
Okay, hold on.
Jeff got ways to handle that. I know because when Pops coached me, he did some things I was like, I got
Bro,
this
you remember Ian, right?
Yeah.
He's the first
I
person
remember
that ever coached me, right? Ian Wynn.
Okay, yeah.
So I did that to him. This is how I learned about time. He flipped it on me, right? So I hired him as the coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's coaching me. He gives me homework. I showed up. I'm not prepared. You know what he said? I'm firing you as a client. I'm paying you. How you firing me? Because you're wasting my time and you're showing that you do not value my input by not doing the work that I'm assigning you. Therefore, I don't want to meet with you anymore. Take care, Cam.
You know what Pops did to me? Pops, Ron. I was something I didn't do twice. Coming to 2 coaching sessions, I hadn't done it. Pops was like, why didn't you get this done? And you know how he is. He start feeling. He said, do me a favor. You already paid for your sessions, Take your checkbook out. So I take out my checkbook. He said, I want you to write, what's a good amount? It's like, I don't know. End up being $1,000. He said, write a check for $1,000. He said, let me get that. I ain't gonna cash it. He said, let me get that. And he took it and he wrote my ex's name on it. He said, I'm gonna mail this.
Wow.
To her.
Hey, yo.
If what I told you to get done isn't done by the next coaching session.
Bet you had that work done.
I had that done. I was like, yo, I gotta leave. I was like, we gotta end the session so I go get this done. I was like, yo, but why did he have to do all that for me to lock in and do what I had to do? I was wasting his time. Good thing he had the tools
Right.
to make me focus up. But
Not just that though, but I think you also identified another driving factor, which is what is your motivating factor? What is your motivator?
what's energizing you? What's the fuel?
because you're not always gonna feel like doing it.
But
So
people-
what is it that motivates you to do it?
But I think people talk about procrastination. Procrastination isn't waiting till the last minute to get something done. That's not procrastination. What procrastination is putting something that isn't important in front of something that really matters.
Jesus. Okay.
Ooh.
So procrastination isn't waiting till the last minute to get something done, like people say. If I'm rushing out of my house to go I'm trying to get dressed, I got one shoe on, and I'm rushing out of the house, that's not procrastinating. My question is what have you done all those hours and those times
Prior.
leading up to that moment that has you running out the house? Procrastination means that you place something of less importance in front of what really matters in your life. And so one of the ways that we waste time the most is we spend time with people, we do activities that really don't matter to the brand that we say we're going to be, to the game plan or the vision that we have for our lives. And so we put something of lesser importance in front of what really matters.
So good.
So here's my question. We talked about why time matters. We talked about certain time strategies, but here's what I want to help identify for all my people out there. And you watching this right now, I'm about to help you out because sometimes what you don't know is actually what hurts you more than what you do know.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to ask. What are some of the biggest enemies of time? What is some of the biggest, when you look at our lives, what are some of the biggest enemies of us managing our time effectively? That's what I want to, what grinds your gears when it comes to wasting time?
I'm gonna say a lack of energy for a lot of people. So many people are tired and just not motivated. And you're either motivated by gain or motivated by not wanting to lose something. And so we have this goal, this outcome we have, and I'm gonna just say it's in the atmosphere, but we're on Earth and we have to build a rocket, and that may take time. And then once we build that rocket, we have to get fuel, and the fuel is what's gonna light the rocket to shoot to that outcome. But a lot of people don't have the fuel; they don't have the energy. And I'm gonna go just tactical. Is a lot of people eat bad and they're not fueling right. They're just the simple stuff, the simple inputs. You gotta protein, fats, water, right? You know, a lot of people you like, oh, what'd you eat today? Nothing, or I had this bad food or that bad food. If you're prepping for an event to be a high performer with 87 gasoline, it ain't gonna happen.
And
And
the high octane.
and if you don't take care of God's temple,
Wow. So you're saying, so if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is one of the greatest things that wastes time is having no energy low energy. And the reason why we have low energy is because we haven't built a system or a way of life around the things that are going to give us the energy to accomplish what we want to accomplish.
like if you want to get up early but you're eating donuts before you go to sleep, that's a problem I had. That's a problem I still do sometimes.
Yeah.
I know I love my sweets,
Yeah.
but then you wake up groggy with brain fog and wonder why you can't get going, and you're wasting time trying to get going. Or I might need some coffee. Prepping, you have to fuel your actions. And I think that's a small thing that a lot of people don't realize is if you don't if you don't fuel, then you're not going to be motivated.
Like the proper
That
preparation.
kind of the energy. And the one thing that high achievers have that most people don't have is a crazy amount of energy. Elon, all these guys have
100 miles an hour.
crazy amounts of energy.
Yeah.
And they go in 16 hours. And not only do they have that energy, they're also managing their time.
Dog, let me tell you this story real quick. I'm gonna ask you.
Nah, please
Cam.
do.
So everybody knows that our Pastor Diego,
Mm-hmm.
ultra marathoner.
Right.
This cat would run, and I found this out from my boy Junior. He would,
Energy.
before service started, he would be at the top of where he lives, which is a hill, in Rancho Cucamonga, and he would run from his house all the way down to the church, which is 6 miles. He would shower, put on his suit,
Mhm.
preach 3 sermons. Then he would switch out of his clothes and jog back home after preaching 3 sermons. Okay, so just give you context.
You know what the first thing people say? He don't do that.
Okay,
Mhm.
I don't have the energy. No way.
Doc, we be driving to church and you see
see,
Pastor
bro.
Diego on the side of the road, right? You know what I'm saying? Like just going,
See
right?
you in a minute.
So he finds out I'm feeling good about myself because I start mountain biking.
Right.
And so I'm feeling so good about myself. Pastor Diego's like, oh, mountain bike too. Oh, yeah. He's like, yeah, I got another friend that mountain bike. He's a podiatrist, really cool guy. And why don't you come mountain biking? When I was like, man, come on, dude. I'm riding at least 30 miles a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't even understand. But, I'll oblige these older guys and show up. So I show up and I'm like, man, my bike is, I dropped 15 hundo for this
Right.
mountain bike. I'm like, yo, boy, drop some bread. At least I thought.
Right.
So I see their bike and I pull off my bike from the rack and they're there. Like, all right, great. Great to start riding. And I was like, all right, cool. So we start riding Claremont Loop
Oh. Ooh.
and we go up Popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
Something, Popcorn. The hill Popcorn, like, popcorn.
Yeah.
Who, that hill gonna be, see, these old people, of course, they would ride something called Popcorn.
Right.
So we start riding. When we start riding, I'm cool. We having a conversation. Pastor Diego's asking about my family.
Mhm.
We riding and we start taking a little bit of incline. And I'm like, man, okay. He goes, all right, Jeff, look, you go up this way and then we're going to go this way. I'm like, okay, they got to take the easier route. Let me go ahead and just do what I got to
Right.
do. So I pop my gears and I'm just, then I'm going up the hill and I'm killing it. And then all of a sudden I get like halfway through. I'm like, sheesh, man, they sent
Yeah.
me the hard route. So I start riding up and I finally get to the place where it goes. All of a sudden I see these cats go, and they come right back down in front of me. And like, all right, Jeff, we're halfway. I said, halfway?
Mhm.
And they said, yeah, we up here. So I'm like, all right. So my pride
Yeah, you
won't let
lock
me
in.
Right. So I'm riding and I'm pedaling. Now I start pedaling and you start getting to the point where your wheels start kind of shaking. I start shaking. I get halfway. We start going above the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to a place where I can't even go. He's right next to me. He passed me on the back and said, go ahead and take a breather. We're gonna keep on going up. And so he goes all the way up the hill. Dog, I ain't never wanted to get back to my car bad enough. But here's why I'm saying this.
Mhm.
Is because oftentimes if we don't put the time in to be able to train for the elevation of where we're going,
Ooh, talk about it. Go and tie it together.
we end up losing time
Mm-hmm.
and having to be sidelined because we're asking God to take us to a level that we haven't put the time in to prepare for.
Ooh.
And so when we look at this time of time wasting and saying, do you have a regiment that backs us up? Do you have these things that back us up? Cam, as you look at it,
Mm-hmm.
Div's talked about preparing. If I want to go and do great things, I got to understand, I finally realized health is wealth.
Yeah.
Like I get that. The healthier I am, the more time I have to generate wealth. I get it, Dips. And that's been my hardest thing for me. I'll go months on and crush it and then fall off because I think I'm doing good.
Attrition becomes your power.
Yeah.
man. That system.
So as you talk about that, having no energy, and you said preparation is the thing that allows you, are you preparing yourself to have energy for where you're going?
And I'm hearing they talk right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy at first. But I want people to realize like that work rate that we're able to have or that people like that are able to have is them performing at 80 to 100%. And right now, if you're not taking care of your temple and doing some sort of working out, you're operating at 30 or 40%.
Ugh.
So it's only hard because that's the level
Boy.
you're operating. But you have a whole nother level that you
Boy.
can operate at if you really lock in on what you need to do.
Boy.
And then things that seem hard to others ends up becoming easy for you.
Let him cook.
Let them cook.
And at the end of the day, we all God's people. We all got that energy.
Talk about it.
Kids never tired.
Right.
When you were a kid, you were never tired, bro. That operation system was on 100. You like, yo. Nowadays they like, oh, this boy has ADD. No, he's a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
just
They got
that-
energy.
They got
Going
What
with
energy.
kids do.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
love
so
that.
you can get that energy back pretty quickly if you just do something, stay consistent, and you could do something you love. It doesn't even have to be, I just love to lift weights.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But getting mobile, getting
Getting
physical, being
mobile,
able
being able to
Yeah.
move, having that spark, bro. Don't you see someone with zeal? Isn't it so attractive?
Yeah.
When you look someone in the eyes and they're sparkling, and it's like, oh my
They're
gosh, they're
fired
not an NPC.
Yeah.
You got a soul.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
meet you.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
be with you.
Yeah.
It's attractive.
I love that.
So with you talking about that and
Mhm.
having low energy, what would you say is a sucker of time, man? Like what drains, like what is an enemy of time for most people?
Like I know I've been riding this value train, man, but to me, I would say people who don't understand the value of time.
Mm.
Like there's a saying that says, a healthy person wants many things, but a sick person only wants one.
Gosh.
And it's their health. It's time. And you ask, like, well, what's the difference between the two, right? Because in that dire need, in that dire situation, you've learned what the value of health and time is because you don't have it anymore. It's
Yeah.
gone. So I think if you can learn the value of time, you don't gamble with things that you're not willing to lose.
Mm. Woo!
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't
Let him
gamble
cook.
with, you know what I mean? Like
If you know the value of time, you don't gamble.
you don't gamble with what you're not willing to lose. So
Mm.
if I have $100 in my pocket, and this is my last $100, the value of this $100 is groceries. It's everything I need for the next 2 weeks. Am I gonna go put that in a gambling machine? I'm not willing to lose
Ooh.
this $100.
Boy.
So it's like put
Boy.
the value. I think if you find the value of what that time means to you, you won't put yourself in situations where you're willing to lose it. That could go anything else, right? What's the value of your relationship to you? What's the value of that man or that woman to you?
Talk about it, Cam.
You won't be willing to lose
Talk about
them
it, Cam.
if it has that value. What's the value of your business?
Yep.
I'm not willing to dabble with bad investments or bad moves with them because the value, I'm not willing to lose this.
Mhm.
So put value on things that you're not willing to lose and identify what that value is, and you won't put yourself in situations to where you're just willing to throw it away. And I think time is the same. If it has that type of value to you, you're not willing to lose it or throw it away.
I was at an event, and one of my coaches, Ed Rush, was saying, he said, "Who in here is not a millionaire?"
Mm.
And 70% of the room put their hand up. And he says, "You're not a millionaire for one reason. You aren't valuing your hour at $500 an hour.
Mm.
Because let's just say you work 8 hours a day and you made $500 an hour for those 8 hours. That would come out to $1 million a year, right?" He said, "It's simple. You aren't valuing your time at that number. So now think of how much you want to make, value your time at that. And unless you're getting that, you need to be working on your skills and mindset
So that
to
you
build
can-
up to that."
Yeah, that's real.
And so he talks about time management, energy management, increasing marketing activity, and always getting better at your craft and always building up that skills. And I know people kind of want to say, oh, personal development. Bruh, you literally could get to the point where you know something, some information. Jeff, you know information that can change someone's mindset ceiling and take them to another level just by
Mhm.
talking to you.
Mhm.
But there are things that we know, there are things we don't know. There's things that you don't even know that you don't know.
Mm.
Right.
And that's a whole nother realm.
Right. Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And only time can reveal that realm.
I think, man, when it comes to this idea of time, one of the enemies of time is I think that we get to a place where we think that God. I heard this one time and it makes so much sense. We think that God moves off of a actual time clock.
Hmm.
Like God cares about how long you've been going through something or
Mhm.
how long you've been crying out. So that's what we always think, that God moves off a clock. God, I've been in this position for 5 years. God, I've been in this position for 10 years. I've been in this position for 8 months. God, when are you going to change this? Until somebody told me God doesn't work off of a clock.
Mhm.
He works off of a prophetic timetable.
Mm.
In other words, there are a certain series of events that have to take place in your life before he promotes you to that next level.
You gotta learn.
Cam, you had to almost lose your life
Yep.
with kidney disease in order for you to recognize what life values.
Mhm.
Dips, you had to go through that moment where your car broke down on the freeway before you said enough is enough. I didn't listen, so I had to go to prison. And then when
Yep.
I got out of prison, I got kicked out of seminary. That didn't work. Now I went to jail again
Mhm.
for some other stuff. And then as soon as I got out of jail again, the guy was like, okay. And then I had to have a heart attack before I recognized that all of those things had to take place in my life before I started valuing the time that it took me to be on this earth. And I think that what happens for most of us, why we waste time, is we waste time crying and complaining. We
Ooh.
waste time crying and saying, God, well, why is it this? And God, why isn't it that? And God, they left me. And God, if
Yep.
they did this, and if I didn't grow up this way,
Like the
we waste.
Israelites.
Bro, we waste so much time
Yep.
complaining about how things aren't working out in our favor. And I think we talked about this numerous times, is even when it comes to traumatic situations, you cannot control what happened to you. But you can control how you decide to move forward and how much time you put into whining or bettering yourself so that you can move forward from that.
Mhm.
And I think those things are the biggest thing. Is I was in prison and I was locked down 24 hours a day. And then I got to another yard where I was locked down 23 hours a day. I could have cried because they said I'm never going home. I could have cried because I heard my sister's graduation music and I couldn't be there. I could have cried when it was 110 in my cell door and they barely cracked it to try to get cross breeze. I could have cried when I was in solitary confinement 24 hours a day in pitch black eating with my hands. But I used that time to be able to build myself up instead of crying. And I think we think that we can manipulate God to move on our behalf if we get emotional. But God is not an emotional God. He's a principle-based God.
Talk about it, bro. Yes,
And so
sir.
what allows us to move on where we are is understanding that if I would just utilize the principles that God has used, I can condense my time and actually allow myself to catapult and go forward. And I think this is what we talked about when we were turning the corner to the studio here,
Yeah.
was I said, people look at Nadia and I'm 37 years young.
Mm-hmm.
Nadia is close too.
Mhm.
And we have teenagers, and most of the parents and most of our friends are in their 50s. And they're accomplished, and we're having conversation, and we just, yeah. And then finally, like, yeah, like when we were in high school and we graduated in 90-something, like, oh, when'd you graduate? I was like, 05. They said, wait, hold on.
Mhm.
Like, how old are you? I'm 37. Oh my God, we forget
Right.
how old you are. I said, but time doesn't determine wisdom.
Come on.
Experience determines wisdom. And so what Nadia and I have gone through, we just hit, on Monday, we hit 20
20 years.
years together.
Come on, man.
Hit
You know
that
what I'm
clap
saying?
button,
Hold on,
hit
let
that
me-
clap
hold on,
button.
get it
So Nadia knows I'm
Yes,
gonna get
sis.
something like, you know what I'm saying? Like, hold on, let me go ahead and get a little. So 20 years together is what we've been, and then we've been married. We're on our 17th year of marriage. And I say that because what we've gone through in our life was a series of events that we chose to learn and grow from so that we didn't waste the time that we had to be in it. And I feel like what wastes a lot of people's time is they say, I'm just going through a rough season. I'm just going through a phase in our marriage. I'm just going through this phase as an individual. Well, how long have you been in it?
Right.
5 years? No,
Right.
baby girl. That ain't no phase. You camped in it.
Yeah.
Right.
You ain't going through a
You
marriage
set up
problem.
camp.
Yeah, you ain't going through a financial problem. You've decided to camp in it. And so I think the reason why most of us don't get out of where we are is because the time that we have that we should be using to build ourselves up is the time we're using to complain, and we think that somebody's gonna feel sorry for us and give us a handout or a hand up. And like you told the story, bro, You told the story of Chris Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Tell that. Let them hear it again because that was so
Chris
good,
Rock.
dude.
Which one?
When he was pushing the car, and you shared. I'll share it.
Mhm.
You said Chris Rock one day his car broke down,
Mhm.
and he was pushing the car, and he had his hazard lights on, and he was like, "Yo, how come nobody's helping me push my car?" And he was just sitting there inside the car, and he had his hazard lights on, waiting for somebody to help, and nobody would come and help him.
Until he started pushing it. And then when you are working towards a goal, people will come help you.
So he started.
Pushing the car. And then that's when people saw that he was pushing the car and they came to help him to push the car.
Boy, and this is why I think
That's a life lesson right there.
Yeah.
life lesson. This is why I want to segue into this because I think this is going to be huge as we really look at this session and really start landing this plane and bringing some tangibles. One of the greatest things that I think that I love what you said about that story, that a lie that somebody told me about time that I'm glad I exposed is that if you don't do something in a certain amount of time, it's never going to happen.
Mhm.
Man.
And that robs a lot of people who are watching this because they're like, man, I thought I was going to have a conglomerate. I thought I was going to be a mogul by 22. We over here,
We out
16 years
here.
old, setting up MySpace pages, talking about motivated nation. How we going to motivate the world.
YP.
You know what I'm saying? YP, young and prosperous. We're gonna make millions and we're going to do this at 16, 17, 18 years old, not knowing how we're going to do it. But I wish somebody would have told me that life requires stickability.
Yeah.
It requires you to be able, that's 3 feet from gold, right? It requires you to stick with something even though you don't see the results of it. It requires you to build yourself up even when nobody's inviting you. You're not getting those types of things. And I realize now, hindsight, as God has allowed me to stand on these stages, I thank God that he took his time in building me,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that he took his time in promoting me, because the thing that we ask for a thing outside of its time is not a blessing.
Nope.
Mm.
Having a relationship outside of its time is not a blessing. Having a job or promotion outside of its time is not a blessing. Solomon, if you had this studio 5 years ago, outside of the time where you did learn business and do this, would it be the blessing that it is right now?
No, it'd be a distraction.
Mm.
Honestly, yeah.
And so understanding those things and understanding time, I wish somebody would have taught me, yo, slow down.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation with some friends, and I'll ask this question. They were like in this stage, and my boy Kevin Show, man, shout out to my boy Kevin, man. He's got an incredible podcast. But I was sitting down with them, and just he's a restaurateur, incredible entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And he was talking to an incredible like sage in the church world, Bayless Conley, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And he asked him, he was sitting down and he's with all these young guns. And he's like, give us some tools, give us some lessons that we
Yeah.
can learn. And the word he said 2 things. He says, you can only ride one horse
Mm.
at a time. That was the first thing.
Mm.
He's like, you may have a lot of them, but you can only ride one horse at a time. And you just got to decide which is the horse that you're going to ride. That was number one. The second thing my man said, he's like, man, I just feel like I got all these opportunities and I don't know what I'm doing. And he said to him, he says, in the journey of becoming, it's okay to be lost.
Ooh.
In the journey of coming, there are moments where you're trying to figure this out and you feel lost. And you feel like, man, I don't know where I'm at. I'm winning in this area, but it's not the right area. And he says it's okay to be lost, because as you're lost, you start understanding your resourcefulness. You start understanding, what are the tools that I can bring on? Oh, I'm really creative. I can build this, or I can do this, or I can pull on this. And so when it comes to time, understanding that it's okay to be lost, but understand that you can only ride one horse at a time in order to get you to where you need to go, and that not every road is going to be the road you stay on for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Cam, talk about that real quick as we try to
I was
land
gonna say,
this
let's end
plane.
right there, bro.
Yeah.
That
Like, if somebody's watching this right now, I'm going to clarify this or kind of simplify this. If somebody's watching it and they may feel lost because the horse that they feel like they should be riding isn't the horse that they're riding right now, in your journey of going from all of these different jobs, how you started off in security, campus security, and now you're an executive over this massive tech company in security and ops and all of these different things. What would you say to somebody who feels like they're running out of time, or they feel like where they're at isn't maximizing their time?
There was many stops along my journey that I thought were obstacles or putting a halt to my momentum, but they ultimately allowed me to pick up something that I needed to get to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is the first job that I had, I knew wasn't what I wanted long term, right? But because of the simpler basic skills I got there, I was able to go to the next one,
Yeah.
which ultimately landed me to my first tech company, which ultimately landed me to overseeing an international airport, which ultimately landed me to the tech company I'm at now. So, in other words, use those stops as building blocks.
Yeah.
And instead of, I think, focusing on, God, I don't want to be here. I prayed to you, Lord, for A, B, and C. Why would you put me here? This is not it. And I think you should shift your mindset to what can I learn from this situation that could take me to the next step.
Mm.
So I think a lot of times the misperception is that we go from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be at 10, so I'm going to take this first basic job, and from here, I'm going to go to my dream job. It doesn't work like that. There's steps along the way that will prepare you for each level. It's like a video game in a sense, right? It's like level 1 gets you to level 2, then 3, then 4, and then you beat the game at 7. So I would just say shift your mind in a sense where it's wherever you're at, you could take something from it. We've talked about a relationship context. That relationship now that's the wrong one, you don't want to be in, is ultimately teaching you what you don't want
Yeah.
in your husband, or what you don't want in your wife. And you take those negative experiences and you pull from those and say, because those were so bad and so negative, I know that's what I don't want to repeat of. So the next person can't have those qualities. But if you didn't encounter those poor qualities, you wouldn't know what you want in that perfect person or that ideal person, right? So shift your mindset, take it with you, and I think you'll learn as you go down the.
What's your
That
take on
journey.
this as we land this plane, bro? What's your thoughts on this?
It's not what you're getting from a situation. It's who you're becoming in a situation.
There you go. Talk to
It's
him.
not how
That's
much
it.
money you're making in a job. It's who you're becoming
Yep.
at that job. And as you look into the future, you can't see the road.
Mhm.
But when you look back, you can see it. And when I look back in my life, I realized that I was in positions that I truly didn't want to be because God was molding me.
Mhm.
Right. I was talking to Lonnie, my CFO. Lonnie was
Yeah,
the client, bro.
that's my boy.
Lonnie was like, yo, Jeff changed my life. But he was telling me how one thing he noticed was I wasn't very good at communicating and then became really good at communicating. And then I was like, that is true. And then you go back. I was an EMT on the ambulance. What am I
Yeah.
doing all day? Talking to people all
That's
day.
it.
How are you doing? What's going on? You learn to communicate. You learn to see patterns. You learn to deal with stress because that's a highly stressful job. And so everything that I was learning, even though I was making $7 an hour to go save someone's life,
Right.
This is crazy.
now, which is crazy, right? Shout out to EMTs and paramedics.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Now I could deal with stress speaking. I can shake hands and kiss babies with anyone. It's like I've done it. I've had so many reps from that job
Mm-hmm.
that it's leading me towards my purpose. And everything that I've ever learned in chasing something I thought I wanted, then I found out what I really wanted. And then that always prepared me to go towards that next thing.
Right. So we just say trust the journey, man.
Trust
You
the
know what I mean?
journey.
Like you will look at a situation that you're currently in and hate it in that moment,
Mhm.
and you will look at it down the road and say, I was exactly where I needed to be at
Be
that
at that
time
time.
in order to get me to where I want to be.
Torrey Roberts says something. He said, oftentimes the thing that you thought was the thing wasn't the thing. It was only the thing to lead you to the thing.
Come on, man.
The thing that
Close the curtain, Solomon.
Yeah, bro. He said the thing that you often thought was the thing was only the thing to get you to the thing.
Little did you know.
You didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that's huge as we talk about time. When we look at this, man, fellas, as we begin to kind of just wind down our time here in the lab and as we've been cooking on this concept of time, I want to give them some action real quick, man. Let's give them something that they can walk away with that's an action statement. This time I'll start it off when it comes to time. Here's what I learned. I learned that time, you're always juggling multiple things in life.
Yeah.
And when we start losing and we miss it is when you're juggling multiple things, you're going to drop something every time you're juggling.
Yeah.
Every single day, you're going to drop something.
Yeah.
Just make sure that it's not the same thing you're dropping every single day.
Ooh.
And so as we're managing time, you're going to be juggling different opportunities, and you may be a driven man, and you have family time, and guess what? You got all your meetings, so you may drop the ball on being able to hang out with your kids. But tomorrow, make sure that you're not dropping that same ball of your kids. If you're juggling all these different opportunities, you're with the kids and you're doing this, and you drop the time with your wife or you drop the time with your husband, make sure that every single day consecutively, it's not the same ball that you're dropping every time. And when you understand that, you're going to understand that as I'm juggling different things at multiple times, I may drop something. You're going to drop something every single day. Just make sure that you're not dropping the same thing every single day.
Love that. I'm gonna throw mine in and dip. So maybe close this out, bro. But one of the things that I learned that helped me the most was instead of focusing on day-to-day tasks to accomplish something, I would write my end goal.
Mm.
Yeah.
So director, blah, 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 better communicator, whatever, right? A better partner, a better whatever. And then instead of focusing on the day-to-day task, I focused on who I need to become.
Mm.
Because I think then you start realizing what you go through on a daily, you can use that to better who you are and to better your character and to establish skills to ultimately become and to reach that end destination. So it's looking long-term opposed to the day-to-day. And that's kind of really what changed things for me.
What I like to do is kind of state my goals or affirmations in the terms of, I'll say, increasing rather than achieving.
Okay.
Because I want to grow as much as I possibly can in this
Mhm.
life. And so if it's money, as I'm increasing my money this amount. If it's health or muscles, I'm increasing my this amount, right?
Mhm.
And so it's always in a growth mindset. And what I learned is time seems linear to people, like you're growing steadily, but it really isn't. It's exponential.
Mhm.
It's like you're going, nothing,
You've been nothing for years.
months,
Yeah.
years.
Boom.
Boom.
Yep.
You're
That's
out of
so
here.
good.
Boom.
Yeah.
You're out of here. Why not on stages? Why not speaking? You might get it's almost like God to give you a little bit. Like, let me give him a little bit,
it's
but then bring it
worse.
back. You like, I'm gonna turn up. Then he brings it back.
Yep.
The next thing you know, boom.
You
And
explode.
everyone sees the boom.
Yeah.
But nobody sees the years.
The months
of
and
the
years of
nothing.
Time.
nothing. Woo.
Time.
Fire, bro.
Well, I love that. Well, listen, y'all. This has been another episode of the Bros
Let's
to Men
go.
podcast. Fellas, y'all cooked today. Solomon,
sir.
always much love, my man. If everybody watching this, make sure that you like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time at the Bros to Men show.
Peace.